Justice League International #1, written by Dan Jurgens, art by Aaron Lopresti. It's a different Justice League book. It's a different team entirely. This has nothing to do with the original Justice League at all. But hey, they explain that themselves, so let's just jump into it. We open with a pitch to the United Nations by someone named, I believe it's Andre Briggs, who's basically saying like, hey, the world's a lot different now. There's superheroes running around. The United Nations kind of needs its own superhero team to deal with, international threats of supervillains. And apparently he's made this pitch several times before, but this time he feels it's different because I don't know, they don't really get into it. Something's different now. And he just lists off a bunch of people that seem like they'd be good team members. People they immediately reject are Plastic Man, which is going to be weird in a couple years, but we'll get back to that. Green Arrow, Blue Beetle, and Batman. Mainly just because they don't want rookies and they want people they can control. The people who are on the team, as shown by the cover, are representing the USA, Booster Gold, representing Norway, Ice, representing Brazil, Fire, representing Zambesi, I believe is the country, Vixen, representing Russia is Rocket Red, representing China is August General in Iron, representing Space is Guy Gardner Green Lantern, and representing Britain is Godiva. I don't know what her powers are. I don't know what half their powers are, to be obvious, but anyway, whatever nebulous thing is going on or has changed is enough for them to finally say yes to this guy's pitch. They accept the team members, and his secretary's like, oh, good job, Mr. Briggs, you did. And he's like, I knew I would. I already bought the building and contacted the members of the team. And she's like, oh, okay, well, that seems brash. What's the building? Turns out it's the Hall of Justice, the literal Hall of Justice. But in this continuity, the Hall of Justice is a public building that, people are pissed off about, that the UN's just kind of taking it. And they are literally protesting outside, saying how this is a public building, you can't have it, and signs saying justice for the people, the hall is... So they're pissed. They're generally pissed. Cut to Peru. 3 scientists for the UN are doing some readings on something when suddenly a giant circular sinkhole opens up and they fall deep into the earth. Cut back to the Hall of Justice and Booster Gold arrives. He's like, hey, where's Superman? Where's Wonder Woman? Where's Wonder Woman? And Mr. Briggs is like, oh, there's been some miscommunication here. This isn't the Justice League. This is the Justice League International. Totally separate. Totally okay with trademarks. And Booster Gold's like, are you kidding me? You want me to sign on to a team with all these protesters back here? And he's like, oh, no, we want you to be the leader, Booster Gold. And he's like, okay, but there's still the protesters back there. And he basically just tells him to ignore him. But Booster's like, nah, we're going to prove them wrong. And then we get a quick aside to 2 protesters who are like, the UN can't have our place. We're going to send them a signal tonight. Then we go inside where it's the meeting of the team. And basically everyone's up for it except for Guy Gardner, who is yelling about how Booster Gold is the leader, which is completely fair. And he's just shouting about it, and finally he storms out, and everyone's like, Booster, go get him. You're the leader. He's like, no. If he wants to join the team, he has to come back on his own accord. But as he's storming out, Batman stops Guy Gardner, and it's like, hey, Guy, I could really use somebody on the inside to keep tabs on this team because, we do want to work together, the Justice League and the JLI. So how about you go back in? And Green Lantern's like, okay, Batman, how about I show you my favorite finger, the one with the ring on it, and then flies away. He doesn't actually flip Batman off, but I really wish he would have. So then we see the team gets their own jet because, of course, they do. Every team needs a jet. We get a little bit of character development for August General in Iron. God, that's a confusing name. And Rocket Red. Basically both. They're the only ones who are really chest pumping for their country. Everybody else is just kind of like, no, we're part of the team. Whereas they're like, no, Russia. No, China. No, Russia. No, China. And Booster, he makes a comment here about, believe it or not, Russia and China will be tremendous allies in the future. Okay, Booster. So, they hop on the jet. They're told about the Peruvian scientists who went missing. And as they hop on, Batman is actually steering the plane. And Booster's like, "Oh, Batman, why are you here?" And he's like, "Oh, I thought you might appreciate the help." Booster's like, "Does the UN know you're here?" And he's like, "Oh, Booster, I always enjoyed your sense of humor." Which doesn't seem like Batman to me, but whatever. Cut back to it's nighttime at the Hall of Justice. Those two that we had the aside to before set off a bomb, blow it up. Bottom panel shows it's completely engulfed in flames. If that's not imagery for you, I don't know what is. Cut back, they've landed in Peru. They're doing some testing on the dirt. Rocket Red does a scan of the area, sees if there's any life forms. He's like, there are no life forms anywhere. Then immediately some life forms come up out of the ground. They call Rocket Red out on. He's like, I didn't think they were underground. What are you? Ugh. So they start fighting them, but then immediately they start running away. Rocket Red counts as a victory, but then everyone's like, okay, that was too easy, and we were kind of losing. So what are they running from? Then the ground opens up. A giant energy beam just launches towards the sky. And it's a robot. It's a giant robot. It's literally like Iron Giant sized giant robot. So that's what they're fighting next issue, because that's where it ends. I like this issue. It's a decent issue. It doesn't do a lot, but just set up things. This is setting up. Okay, here's the team. How are they interacting with each other? How are we moving forward here? This doesn't do a lot on its own individually. So it's kind of just its own whatever. But in terms art-wise, nothing super standout, but nothing that I'm hating either. It's pretty good writing-wise. Totally fine. It's totally average, It's just completely like, okay, yeah, this is fine. This is good. Nothing's really jumping out at me as amazing. The characters who get the most development are Booster, obviously. Guy Gardner gets a little bit. The Rocket Red gets more so than August General, but they both are, they're both represented as the nationalistic ones. And then there's a little bit barely mentioned here at the end of Godiva, who's just like, I'm not gonna get involved in this fight. Like, it doesn't seem like she's really a team player right now, for whatever reason. And she's kind of got the hots for Booster, which is a little strange, but whatever. Point being, I'm gonna give this maybe 7. Nah, lower, 6.5. It's fine. Like, nothing really did anything else, but it's just average. It's nothing really right home bad. Hopefully it'll get better, but on the first issue, just setup basis, it's fine.